Welcome to another edition of the Christie Taylor Show here inside the Taylor Tilton Hour. I'm Christie Taylor, and I am so excited to be back once again. And I have to say, welcome Mobile, Alabama. Yes, one of our new markets, in addition to Memphis, Chattanooga, Rome, Georgia, Huntsville, and Florence. We now are in Mobile, Alabama. So excited to be able to share the Taylor Tilton Hour with you. And on today, we have a very special guest. And, the last couple of years has been very challenging for a lot of people. And one particular conversation that I'm so glad is starting to take a greater sense of, has been talked about more is mental health. Mental health. And this young lady, Brittany Krystantos, is a 23-year-old author, entrepreneur, speaker, and mental health activist who has written 2 books, releasing the first one when she was 15 years old, entitled I Am Not Your Average Teenager, From Silence to Happiness, My Journey to Find My Voice. Now, Brittany is an advocate for mental health after years of select mutism for 7 years of her life, and has been featured in magazines, TV shows, and other platforms. Now, this year, after 24 months of the pandemic, she is now reemerging to advocate the difficulties we all face over the last 2 years and how we can all come out on the other side. Now, Brittany is super excited to share with us her latest projects, including a book that she released not too long ago, that's Beneath and Beyond, a hands-on guide to a stress-free life. And let me tell you, I got to find out more about this. Brittany, welcome to the Christie Taylor Show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
First of all, what part of the world are you in?
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Well, welcome to Memphis. I'm based in Memphis, Tennessee, so super excited, and I'm grateful that we can have this conversation. I personally, in my 20s, really began a path of mental health. First time ever going when I lived in Detroit, just south of Canada. Went to my first therapy session, and I've been an advocate ever since. So I'm glad to see someone of your age also advocating the same. Can we talk about, Brittany, just your upbringing, if you have siblings, just to get to know you a little bit?
So like I said, I'm from Toronto, Canada. I come from a family. I have young parents. I have a sister who is 3 years older than me, and I think growing up, I've always looked at my sister as a way of wanting to be like her, and I always felt like I was living in other people's shadows. And now, as I'm 24, and being an author at such a young age, I've had to learn how to grow into myself and find out that my voice does matter. And I think that my upbringing and where I've come from and who I am today has a lot to do with it. And having a sister older than me, and having really cool parents and stuff like that, have a lot to do with who I am today. But definitely, like, your surroundings affect who we are. And if I wasn't a teen author at 15, then I wouldn't be the woman I am today at 24.
Wow. So you just had a birthday. Happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you.
Now, let me tell you this. I'm looking at, you're a gorgeous young lady, absolutely gorgeous. And to hear that you say living in someone's shadow, it just reminds us that no matter how, what we bring to the world, that there's always that sense of, am I enough? Am I enough? And I had a question in your bio. It talked about for 7 years, a disorder I've never heard of, select mutism. Can you give me an understanding, Brittany, on what that is?
Yeah, so for the first 7 years of my life, my bio is right. I didn't speak. I was very selective of who I spoke to. And basically, when you have anxiety and you feel like panic attacks and you feel nervous and you start having the anxious feeling, that was me, but that was me every single day. And so selective mutism is a really rare form of anxiety, especially when I was a child. And basically, I chose who to speak to, who to not talk to for a long time. And I was basically only speaking to my parents and whenever we were home. And when we were out, it was like complete mutism for 7 years. And so really, like I said, it was all about the anxiety that I was going through. I felt really scared to speak my truth. And I could speak. I wasn't completely mute. I didn't have any hearing issues. I was just afraid to talk, unfortunately. And it took a lot of time and it took a lot of years to actually speak and be, I guess you could say, average. And that is what kind of inspired me to write my first book, was that I was always feeling not average.
I'm really surprised to know that there was a term for it, because a lot of times in the South, I'll say this about the concept of being seen and not heard. Also, oftentimes was imposed upon children where they could not speak up, but to know that the selective aspect of it. How did your parents know to have a diagnosed and that you just want a super quiet child?
I think it was a lot to do with the fact that I have an older sister, and I was not
Mhm.
the first child, I was the second, and they've had, 3 years of experience of having a kid in the world, and my sister was always outgoing, always talking, and at 3 years old, she was, always socializing with other kids in kindergarten or class, and my parents realized that I was really shy, and of course, babies are shy, but, when it came to 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-olds, and up to 4 and 7, and I really wasn't talking, I think they realized that, hey, there's something wrong, and they didn't know if I had, like, hearing issues, they didn't know if I had speech problems, they just really didn't know what to do. And so they took me to the doctors, and they, got tests done, and it was just a simple hearing test, and I heard everything. I was learning, I was absorbing, but I wasn't speaking. And I think that's when they realized that I needed some help and some guidance.
What type of help is available if a parent is having a similar situation? What did your parents do to assist you in helping you begin to give voice to your thoughts?
Well, I think the first step is not forcing your kid to speak, because when you start forcing, or you start, forcibly encouraging the kid to speak when they don't feel comfortable to speak, they're actually going to get deeper into their selective mutism, and they're not going to feel comfortable to speak. And I think one thing they did that was really great is, like, I always had my mom around, and she was always comforting and reassuring. And so, if there's any parents out there that actually are experiencing their kids that selected mutism, I think
Mhm.
just make sure they know that they're there, you're there for them, and everything's going to be okay. Because I think the one thing that the kid feels is that they don't feel comfortable to speak. And so when you start forcing yourself onto them,
Yeah.
they won't speak.
It actually, as you say, it actually underscores their anxiety.
Yeah.
Now, did they determine, when you were, because you say around 7 or 8 years old, you began that process. Did they determine what the anxiety actually was?
No, it was just at the time. I don't know about it right now, because I don't know what if it's more rare. But at the time, it was really rare,
Mhm.
and it wasn't like at doctors and speech therapy and different doctors that my parents took me to. It wasn't common to have a kid that wasn't speaking. You have anxiety, and then and that's just like a black or gray category. There's never been like in between. And I think that term selective mutism has become more common these days.
Mhm.
But back then there was really like no treatment to do. It was just Brittany will speak when she's ready to speak.
Wow, that's a very, your parents were definitely patient, and I love the fact that they didn't force you to speak until you were ready. But the very fact that you had an older sister, you say you talked to your parents during that time? What was your relationship like with your older sister?
Well, I don't really remember, to be honest, but I was always just in my own little world. My mom told me I was always like doing my own thing, or I was always very like behind doors. Like, I didn't really like socialize a lot. So it depends, and I don't really remember, so I can't tell you that. But um, my parents always told me that I was just very like quiet and like
Mhm.
not loud or anything. So
So you and your sister, okay, once you got into your, I guess you could say, the preteens, is that what they call it? Preteens.
yeah.
Um, how did you start opening up, and what triggered your freedom to speak and share your thoughts?
What triggered I think it just came to a point where I was ready, and I was ready to speak, and I think the whole word average, I always wanted to be average, I guess you can say, because I was so felt invisible back in the day. And so that's why I went to high school. You can say I was average on the outside. I had friends, I had popular girls actually, and I think I always wanted everything I didn't have, like friends growing up and socializing growing up. And then I went to high school, I had all of that, the socializing, the friends, the going out on the weekends to people's houses and just always having plans. And then it came to a point where I realized that I wasn't happy and I was becoming someone I wasn't. And then it came back to the point where I wasn't average and I felt not good enough and I didn't feel beautiful enough. I didn't feel cool enough. I didn't want to go out to the parties. I actually wanted to stay home and read a book because I'm very introverted. And so I started to become depressed because I was forcing myself to do all this stuff. And my parents were always very like pressuring with me to go out and have fun and have normal teenage years. I guess because maybe they saw how I was growing up, that I didn't have any socializing growing up. And they always wanted me to, have friends and go out and have fun. And I think that pressure to, be this teenager that's always constantly having friends and going out became really hard. And that's what caused my anxiety and my depression and later on suicidal thoughts and feeling not good enough and not knowing if I wanted to live or not. So a lot of my past had to do with who I was growing up. And that's why I find it so important to get the help you need because, like I said, there wasn't much treatment as a kid back in the day. So I didn't get the help that I needed or I probably should have had. I probably should have went to therapy or should have talked about all the feelings I went through growing up in silence. And I didn't get that help. And I think that has a lot to do with my feelings and my depression that, manifested itself in high school.
As a teenager. Now, what led to the book?
It was exactly, it was the negative thoughts and of not feeling good enough. And actually came to a point where I thought actually this one time, maybe I shouldn't live. I had those thoughts. That was one really dark night. And as soon as I was thinking that, I was about to attempt that decision, I somehow came to this thought that I can't do this. Like, I need to live for more and I need to do something about my life. And that's what got me to the book because I seeked help. I went on Google. I typed in like life coaches or spiritual coaches in Toronto, Ontario. And I looked whoever's in the area. And I found this woman who was amazing and ended up guiding me in my life and giving me the answers I needed. But I looked her up and I sent her a text message like telling her I was like depressed and I was 15. And actually she called me right away that night or the morning after. And I knew it was a sign that I needed to, live for more and I needed to find ways to be happy because life didn't want me to end it because the pain was so bad. Life wants me to live and enjoy all this amazing stuff that's happening in my life. And I think it was, like I said, that moment that defined why I should have wrote that book or why I wrote the book, because I wanted to inspire and help other kids who are going through what I was going through.
So tell me some of the main points in the I'm Not Your Average Teenager. I love that title.
Thank you.
What are some of the main things that you inspire other young people to know in their book?
Yeah, the main things there's 11 tips. But I'll tell you a few for sure. One of them is surround yourself with positive people and positive friends, because when I was in high school, I always surrounded myself with whoever looked cool or popular. And so in doing that, I was unhappy. And so the biggest thing for me was actually getting rid of those friends and that ideal goal of being cool or popular or average and getting rid of that. And then the next thing for me was knowing that my voice matters and to speak my truth. And so I teach others that their voice matters. And when they have feelings or they're upset with something, to always speak their truth. And a few other ones is finding your place in the world. So finding like hobbies or activities that you like to do. So for me, it was always writing. And it was actually writing in a journal that led me to the book. So for others, it could be singing or dancing or I don't know, any other sports, soccer, hockey, whatever it is. It's a hobby. It's something that they'd like to do, and they wake up in the morning and they want to do it. And obviously, as a young adult, there's definitely like more lessons and things I've learned, because as you grow up, you find yourself a little bit more. And that's actually why my new book called I'm Not Your Average Young Adult, which I'm writing and it's not launched yet. I'm getting ready to launch it. Will be about what I've learned as a young adult, because, as a teen, that life is so different. And then as a young adult or a woman in your 20s to your 30s to your 40s and older, you learn so much more about life.
Wow. I love the fact that, you're continuing your storytelling as you chronicle different chapters of your life. And it's just inspirational, actually, because
Yeah.
not only have you learned to find your voice, that you have, as you say, you understand that your voice is important, that you have something to say. And let me tell you that we all still can struggle with that. I mean, I'll raise my hand to that. Like, who cares what I'm thinking? Who cares what I have to say? And thank you for penning your thoughts and sharing those thoughts. Now, you also, so that means you're working on your third book. You have a second book called Beneath and Beyond.
Yes.
Uh, Give me some
True.
idea of what that book is about.
Yes, that book is so I do speaking engagements and I talk to high school kids and universities. And I actually created and developed a workshop called Beneath and Beyond, which has exercises and tools that actually get kids talking and get kids and young adults healing themselves. And so I believe that our pain and the things we go through are all like onions, and there's layers and layers and layers of pain inside of us. And so in order to heal and to be happy, we need to heal within ourselves. And so this
Mhm.
workshop talks about going beneath and beyond yourself. And so it was such a great success, and kids were loving it, and it was helping a lot of kids and adults. And so I thought to myself, I really want to turn this into a book, because why shall now a workshop with me be able
Mhm.
to help some kids? What about the thousands and millions of people in the world that could benefit from this workshop for their mental health? And that really is what it's about. It's an interactive guide, exercise book to help you go within yourself.
Wow. Give me one of the exercises. Let me see if I can do one.
Yes. So one of the first exercises is to basically write down on a journal, which you don't have to do, 5 positive memories in your life that define you, that you've gone through that's really happy, and 5 negative memories that you've gone through, and that shape who you are today, and things you may not talk about that you're going through. And so it's 5 and 5, but you can do 1 and 1 if you want.
Okay. Now, when you're in your workshop and you're doing that particular exercise, which I absolutely love, 5 good memories and 5 negative memories that have shaped us. What tends to come up in that exercise?
So for depends on who it is and the age
Mhm.
group, but a lot of teenagers have wrote down terrible things that their teachers don't even know about, or their friends, and it's to do with some wrote abusive parents, and wow, like who would have known that, right? Like people hide that. Some kids have wrote down suicidal thoughts, and they don't want to live anymore. And I've seen this with my own eyes, literally in these workshops. And being beside these kids and seeing them bawl their eyes out because they realize that they're going through something so hard, and they finally have the chance to talk about it. And so in that moment when there's terrible things that these kids are going through, I pray and I hope that now they can get the help that they need.
Mhm. So, when you with as a mental health advocate, what are some of the important things that you have come to understand as you on your own journey?
Um, Things I come to understand. I think that what I've learned is that mental health doesn't make you weak, it makes you stronger. And so I think that our mental health doesn't define us, and our sadness or depression or anxiety or things we go through, it doesn't make us less than, it actually makes us stronger. And so if we learn to talk about it and to, raise awareness for mental health, then we're able to inspire millions of people around the world who are dealing with it in silence.
I love that. Now, as a person who's a mental health advocate, now that you are not only an author, you're a published author, and you're a speaker, what are some of your main topics that you share if a person wants to invite you into their college or their organization? What are some of your speaker topics?
So some, of course, is mental health, but that's not the only thing I talk about. I also talk about women empowerment and, tools and tips for females who are, maybe trying to start their own business, or um, go after their goals or dreams and follow their passions, and, to be strong and confident. And I also talk about tips to helping young adults who are struggling with what to do in their life and where to go in their life and stuff like that to help them get to the next level. So really, like, I have open conversations in different topics of talks, depending on what conference or school or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. And as a woman who as a young woman speaking about women empowerment, of course, last month was Women History Month. Are there
Mhm.
particular women who have really stood out to you personally or in history that you draw strength from?
Mhm. I mean, there's a lot of females even around me personally that inspire me all the time. Like my mom, she's so strong, and she's such a caring mother and grandmother to my nephew, and she's so sensitive and kind and loving. So she's definitely always been an inspiration to me. And the mentors and the people I have around me, I always try to have a really good team of females around me that push me and motivate me. um and when it comes to women empowerment, like I'm someone that is not just an author. I've also tried to start my own businesses. And
Oh, tell me about those,
during
Brittany.
during the pandemic,
Mhm.
my boyfriend and I actually created a game called Stuck in the House. And it was this like really cool game to play when you're at home and you're stuck. And my mom and I started like this basket company called like Mother Like Daughter, and it's baskets and holiday gifts and like candles, and we make it from home. And so even though that I'm this author and stuff like that, I also really try to be proactive and do whatever I can to start businesses or do whatever that calls me in the moment.
And you just turned 24. You have been packing a lot into your life, which is a beautiful thing. And I'm really stuck on your game, Stuck in the House. Tell me about it and how do you play it? And if a person wanted to learn more about it, first of all, tell me about the game. What exactly does it consist of?
Yeah, so it's a all family game. It's a
Mhm.
card game, and it comes with different categories, different cards, and there's truth or dares that it's at all age. So you play with your kids, but you also can play with your friends. You can play with your whoever it is, and there's different cards. There's some really funny pranks that you're sitting at the table, and tell your dad or whoever it is like picks up the card and it tells them to prank call someone, and it's just really fun and funny. And there's trivia questions, and it makes you guess and think and do things. And then there's these challenges that you're in the table with your family, your friends, and whoever does the most push-ups or jumping jacks wins the card. And the whole goal of it is to get as many cards as possible. And because during the pandemic we were always stuck at home and we weren't working out, we weren't active, we weren't even doing anything or socializing mostly. So we thought it would be a really cool idea to create this game that gets people moving, gets people talking and connecting and laughing. And we also created like a variation of it. So when it was locked down and people couldn't go out, if you
Yes.
had the game, you could have done it on Zoom too. And
Oh.
it was really fun. It was a really cool experience, and it was really amazing that we got to put it out there.
So if a person is like, I want Stuck in the House, is it something available on your website as
Yeah,
well?
it's on Amazon, and it's on it's not on my website, but I'm gonna put that on there. It's
Okay.
called it's available on inhousegames.com.
inhousegames.com, inhousegames.com. And of course, you said it's also available on Amazon. Look for Stuck in the House. Now, you also talked about you and your mom, and I'm really grateful to hear that, you all have partnered also as well in your business. And do you source the gifts that you put into your baskets from local
Mhm.
artisans? Give me an idea of how you all put your packages together, like mother, like daughter.
Yeah, so it's really funny because whenever I was a kid or growing up, my mom has always been the artistic, creative person when it comes to gifts. Like, she'd always give our family members the nicest gifts. And she's always been so perfect at basket making. So that's why I went to her and I was like, we shouldn't make baskets because it gives her passion and she enjoys it. And I want to do something that can, support her. And because I'm good on the computer and the business stuff, and she's just an everyday mom that's so good at creating things, right? So we go to wholesalers or we go to local people in the city, and we've used different products locally and globally as well. And the one thing that we do that's in house that we make at home is our candles. and people loved it because I can show you after, but our candle has like a actual real looking cookie in it. It's not a cookie; it's made out of wax, and people liked it because it smells and it looks like a cookie. And actually, when we were making it, my dad thought it was a cookie almost and almost ate it, and we were like, "No, that's wax." So that's what people like about it is the fact that it's a very like it's from home. It's a home feeling. It's mom and daughter that created this, and every basket or candle is really made with love.
I love it. Now, Brittany, what else do you have planned with all the things you have going on for the rest of 2022?
Really, the biggest thing that I'm planning right now is my new book and getting that out there. I'm actually starting like a Kickstarter for it called Project Brittany, and it's gonna have like different rewards if people pre-order the book and a merch and a limited books and things like that to support Project Brittany. And it's also gonna be cool because it's a way for people to order the book earlier on. And Project Brittany is this really cool thing to me that is really about getting me back out there because I took some time off the last few years to really discover myself and find myself. And Project Brittany is allowing me to get back out there, be an author, and to get this book to as many people as possible to help others. And that's really my focus now.
So the pandemic for many of us, and I know in Canada, you all had much stricter stay-at-home orders than we had here in the States. What did you discover about yourself during the lockdown?
Yeah, definitely. There was lockdown. Like we couldn't go out. It was insane. What I've discovered about myself is that even through the darkness, we have to find somehow ways to be happy with ourselves. And for me, for the holidays, I got this really cool virtual reality headset for Christmas this year. And so there's a workout program on there called Supernatural, and I hate working out. Like I don't like it. And actually, for the first time, I started working out on this virtual reality headset called Oculus, and I love working out. And so ever since then, during this pandemic of being home locked and like eating a lot of chocolate and food, I realized that you have to be healthy and you got to work out and you got to just use the time wisely to either evolve yourself or evolve your mind or your body.
Wow, this is so good. Now we're talking to Brittany Krystantos of Canada, and she is an author, a speaker, entrepreneur, and so much more. And mostly, she is known as a mental health activist and advocate. And for young women and young teens all around the world, she has a message for you. She shared once again the title of your books and your upcoming books so they'll know how to locate them. The title of your books.
I'm Not Your Average Teen is my first book, and Beneath and Beyond. You can get it on Amazon and my website. Or my new book that's coming out soon is called I'm Not Your Average Young Adult.
All right. Any last words? What's your final thoughts for today?
I just hope whoever watches this, and if anyone's going through some difficulties in their life, that they can, be inspired and to know that they're not alone in the things that are difficult in your life today. Things will get better.
Amen to that. Amen. Thank you, Brittany. You were amazing. Thank you. And thank you all so very much for watching the Christie Taylor Show. Of course, you can always watch the replays and share this with a friend on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms. Until next time, the Christie Taylor Show.